So right now we're in the dead of winter. It's January. I mean, water temp is 41 degrees. What you have this time of year is fish are feeding. They could be scattered. Generally they're deep, really wherever the bait is. Those are the kind of places we're looking for. I just kind of pulled in right here around this point. What I'm suspecting to see, especially on our lakes here and in the backs of some of these pockets and stuff, you're gonna see balls of shad. We're kind of far up a river on this particular lake. I'm on kind of the inside, the flatter banks. I look at the rocks on the banks. Usually this bank right here has got some really good rock on it. I'm just kind of looking around, scanning pretty fast in the middle of these pockets, seeing if I can find shad. Really thinking it looks like that shad is more out towards the mouth of this pocket. I mean, this is the first one we've got in, so I can notice too, the water clarity. It's not that clear. Whenever you're throwing a minnow-style bait and the water's a little dirtier, you have to be super precise with your cast, and you have to get that bait right there on those fish close so they can see it, because they may not be able to see it as well from a distance. I got one swimming right here at us. So I threw my bait just past him. I'm gonna reel it in. Now I'm gonna be right above his head. There's my bait. I got him. Let's see what it is. Oh, it's a nice bass. Ace is up there swimming that real shallow. Look at that. See, that's what I like to see there. That fish is just up there in 5 foot of water, swimming up by the surface. Man, look at that fish. He's a chunk. He is a chunk. Oh, come here, baby. There. Hey, that's a great way to start the morning. Now that fish right there, he swallowed that Berkeley drip minnow. Super realistic looking. Got him right there, but look at that fish. Super healthy. Most of these fish are gonna be really fat. They're up there looking for shad and stuff, but that fish was only like 5 foot under the surface. And I threw that minnow out there and just kind of got it close to him and wiggled it right above his head, and he came up and sucked it in. That's what you do, you know? That's a beautiful fish. When you're throwing a minnow and you got fish that are that shallow under the surface, it's really important not to splash the bait right on top of their head. Always lead them out there. Like I threw that bait probably 20 foot in front of that fish. And really, honestly, if we start seeing a lot of fish that are really high and that's the ones we're catching, I'm even gonna get even a lighter bait or a lighter jig head and put on here so I can be even more subtle and I don't have to worry about my bait sinking so much. You always wanna keep the bait above the fish's head. They're not gonna be looking, this time of year, they're looking up. So if they see a minnow above their head, that's when they're gonna eat it. So that's exactly what happened. We'll see if we get another one. Something that's really important to me when I'm fishing these bass tournaments is getting my bait quickly down to fish while and still being able to use small baits, because what I'm finding on a lot of these lakes is these fish are getting really pressured, and a lot of times you have to throw smaller baits. And so Berkeley just came out with this forward braid. I like this braid because it's super, it's smooth and it casts really well, but it sinks faster. So you can get your bait down to those fish quicker using smaller baits, which is really important. This new forward braid is really changed my efficiency while fishing with forward-facing sonar on some of these fish. So got him. Oh, feels like a decent one. Yeah, it's a nice one. Another pork chop. See, that fish is up there high too, swimming around. Another largemouth. He's not as big as that last one, but he's a pretty fish. Another one on the old drip minnow. Pretty one. He ate it really good. I switched to a little bit different jig head there, one that's a little lighter and is not as bright like that white one I was throwing. And we got him to bite. So I think I'm starting to get an idea, but what I'm seeing is these fish are just kind of random. They're kind of scattered around right now. I think we can pull into an area we'll see some more shad, but I think it's just kind of random. We're just kind of going down the bank and seeing some fish just cruising around, and they're kind of finicky to get the bite. seems to be like two kind of fish, like some fish that just roam and do that, and then you've got some that are kind of actively feeding. And to be honest with you, the ones that are out there roaming by themselves, they're generally the bigger fish. Ah, hit it. Dag nabbit. Now that one, I don't know, he just nipped it. when you're throwing a minnow and you see the fish and you get your bait close to it, as soon as he turns and looks at it, whatever you do, you cannot let that bait drop. You got to make it look natural, and you got to keep your minnow, you have to keep it going. Like if the fish is right here and he's coming, or he turns and sees that bait, you have to keep your minnow up and moving away from him. And as he swims to it, you want to keep it going away from him and tease him with it. And that's really important to get him to bite. Now that fish, he just bit the back of this thing. He just wasn't very aggressive, but super important to catching a fish on a minnow. Might have one right here. There, my bait's falling right there in front of him. Oh, here he comes. Come on, dude. I got him. Yeah. Yeah, largemouth. Swimming with two of his buddies. I'm gonna see if I can flip that one. Yeah. That one's a little bit fatter there. So I did make one crucial little change here on these last two fish. We just picked up two really quick here. He is feisty. Let's see if I can get him in the lip there. The cool thing about this drip minnow is we have different various sizes in it, and I got to put a new one on here. But I just switched to this little 3-inch one. And let me pull it off the jig head here. So there's a good chance that some of these bass are feeding on some smaller shad, and I just got this one to commit. I just got another one to commit, and we've been throwing at various fish with like the 4-inch size. So a lot of times that's the first thing I do is downsize, and I think that may be the deal. So we may be able to pick up some more fish just on one little change. We didn't change colors, we just changed the size of the drip minnow, and that could be the key to getting more bites. So big key change there. Yeah, if you noticed on that fish catch right there, he was with another fish and it was swimming, and it turned and he come back, he seen my bait, and I just kept going away from him, kept that bait coming up and away from him, and I just had to keep barely moving it and shaking it, creating that oscillating action like it's a minnow that's trying to get away from that bass, and that's when he ate it. This is a jig head I switched to. It's some that I just pour myself. It's got a small hook in it for this little bait. But it's really simple, you know, just try and keep it really straight line. The cool thing about this drip minnow is it's got a cavity inside there, so you can feel it. Like I'm not hit any resistance when I go through that bait. I'm keeping in that cavity, and what that does is it keeps your hook in the center of the body. So I'll push it back to back here real close to this fin, and then I'll come straight out the back of it right there, just like that. And then I'll just lightly push that up there. I like to wet that just a little bit, and that helps it slide up. That thing just goes straight to the jig head like that. It looks super natural, really good. All right, guys, so I want to go over the setup I was using today on the drip minnow, and I went with about an 1/8 ounce jig head there. If you guys remember, I tied that loop knot on there. Very important for getting the action in the bait. Getting that oscillated action while you're shaking it. Today I used Berkley 100% fluorocarbon. This is 6-pound test. The next thing is this braided line. This is 6-pound Berkley forward braid. You can cast tiny little baits like this, and you can make long casts with it. You're just gonna be able to extend your cast. The sensitivity is awesome. Now when it comes to minnow fishing, I really like a limber rod. This is a Fenwick 7-foot, world class. It's a medium light. I think medium light is super important because you need a really soft tip. A soft tip allows you to really control that bait. And another thing is this rod's 7 foot long. It's fairly short, and I can control that bait. I can work it really good and shake it. But that soft tip's really important because a lot of times they'll just kind of suck that bait in, and you want to have a little give on the end of your rod so they'll really get that whole thing in their mouth. So the reel I'm using is an Abu Garcia Xenon LTX. You know, the 6.3 to 1 seems about perfect to me because when you're sitting there winding and you're trying to keep that bait as stationary as possible in front of that fish's face, you don't want to have a high-speed reel because you don't want that bait coming away from them. So when you have the right setup for this, it can be a super effective way to catch bass, shaking a minnow. And this setup right here is what I prefer, and it works really well. Got him. Can't tell how big he is. Decent one. He was sitting right there on the bottom. He's a fatty too. Another one on the old drip minnow. You know, so today I was thinking, you know, we want to get in areas where the fish, I'm figuring it's wintertime, they're going to be a little deeper. They may be underneath the balls of shad, feeding on shad. But what we found out is a lot of these fish are actually just up shallow in their roaming. And just an awesome, fun way to catch fish, shaking a minnow, have a blast, get out there, go fishing. Can't beat it.